Welcome back to the I Am Passionate podcast. It's your host, Jaren Smith, and it's playoff football. I got my brother back on the podcast with me to talk about, the playoffs, also wrapping up the regular season. How you doing, Cam?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Ready to chop it up with you. Got a lot of reaction from last week and then got some good matchups going into this week.
Exactly, exactly. Before we, talking about last week, if you had to guess what you thought my overall record was predicting games, like how many games above or below 500 would you guess that I was?
I think you were well above 500. You were well above 500. I think you were probably sitting around 75%, if I had to guess.
I correctly predicted 171 games, like 171 wins, 100 losses, and one tie. So I kind of read to you week to week with those predictions, and just so you can see what there's two asterisks on this list, and the asterisks mostly are from when the Ravens play the Bears and Packers. Um, so I'm just gonna speed read them, and you tell me when you need me to stop or if you just need me to repeat them. Uh, Week one onward. 9-7, 13-3, 6-10, 8-7-1, 6-8, 11-4, 10-5. For the first 7 weeks, that's 63, 43-1.
Hmm.
Week eight, 9-6. There's an asterisk there. 9-5. Week 10, 9-5. Week 11, 11-4. Week 12, 9-5. Week 13, 13-3. From week 8 to week 13, that's 60 and 27.
hmm
Week 14, 7-7. Week 15, 12-4. Week 16, 13-3. Week 17, 9-7. There's another asterisk there. And week 18, 7-9. That's 48 and 30. So, I know I didn't divide, evenly because if I would have divided them up, week 6 by 6, but I did not have, a period of time where I was significantly below 500, but I'd say for a first season to keep it count, this is a pretty good year. Pretty good year.
Yeah,
Uh,
no. You went, was that week 8 through what? You went six. What was your record?
60 and 27. My
60
best week
and
from week
27.
8 to 13 was week 13.
Yeah, that's 60 and 27. That's wild. You
Uh,
were you were on a hot streak right there.
I was. But let's not keep them waiting. Ravens versus Steelers. I'm sure a lot of people are probably, curious on what I have to say about the Ravens. First
Yeah,
things first.
I was gonna say, what you got to say about it?
I think John Harbaugh's a great head coach, but I think it was time to let him go. You
Yeah.
yourself texted me apologizing, not realizing how many heartbreaking losses the Ravens have had.
You know what? It's like I was there for every single one of them, but like for me, I just move on. They don't I don't hold on to them because I'm not a Ravens fan, so I don't tend to keep count and track. But after having gone back and actually looking at how many there have been over the last decade plus,
Last 18 years, his entire tenure.
it's been pretty rough. Yeah.
He has the most blown leads with like, leading by a touchdown or more in the fourth quarter since 1991. Neither of us were alive. Jalen was not even alive,
Doesn't make sense.
which that is crazy. It sucks. It really does seeing the Ravens lose like that. Now, do I think that they would have, made a crazy run in the playoffs? No. But I did want the Ravens to run another play because they had one more timeout, and Kevin, brought up the point where John Harbaugh probably didn't want a freak accident to happen, which I totally get it. But you have a rookie kicker kicking in a place where it's already difficult to kick. Chris Boswell has been slightly worse in Pittsburgh over the last couple of years. He hasn't been kicking as well at home games the last couple of years.
Mhm.
I would have ran one more play, specifically a run play. Um, Two hands on the football. I would have ran one more play.
Yeah.
But I get it. 44 yards. That's a kick that, Tyler Loop before that kick had not missed under 50 yards the entire season.
Yeah, which is
Um,
why I feel like
yeah.
that's why you can't really knock Harbaugh. I mean, I get you're playing in harsh environments, all that kind of stuff, but I don't give the excuse as a rookie just because like they're all out there playing. He's been playing with these guys the whole year. And like you said, he hasn't missed under 50 this whole year. So I don't think that there'd be any reason for you to kind of have any hesitancy to think that he would miss. I think that he unfortunately he did miss. But I'm glad to see that like the Raven community and the NFL community isn't destroying this man's life right now.
No, you're wrong there. They are.
No, no, I mean I know they are, but I just mean so in the fact that like he's going to be back next season. I think that's been made clear of. I think in the past when situations like that have happened, it's been so bad to the point where like the kicker is gone. You don't ever see him ever again, really.
Okay, that's where you were going with it, more so from a he still has a job perspective and
Yeah,
not
he's still.
people are
Yeah, I mean,
raging
obviously,
online.
it's going to come with the hate and everything, and I don't agree with any of that either, of course. But um, I'm glad to see that the Ravens team has really come around him and supported him, and the Ravens staff and everything like that as well. So
Yeah. And the other thing to mention is he's the last person I'd blame it on. The Ravens started 1-5. They
yeah,
somehow, got out of that hole. They
yeah,
dropped two important games to the Bengals and Steelers. And I'm like, people who thought the Ravens were going to win the division, I'm like, you're crazy. Like they were expecting them to win 11 straight. I'm like, you're crazy. You're crazy. But if anything, I think the only thing that could have saved the Ravens earlier in the year, there was no point in the Ravens signing Cooper Rush. There was no point. There
yeah,
there was
yeah,
no point.
yeah.
Now,
I don't know what
if
that
Tyler
was.
Huntley started those games, do I think the Ravens would have won those games? Not necessarily, but they would have stood a better chance.
Yeah,
Uh, but overall, if I had to say who I wanted the Ravens to have as head coach, either Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator, or Robert Saleh. I'm not against Mike McDaniel, but they would need to have the right guy be the defensive coordinator. They would need the right guy for that. And I know Mike McDaniel, at least on Twitter, is being said as the favorite at the moment, which I'm like, you know what? Mike McDaniel is a good play caller. So like I'm not gonna be mad there. He just would need to have the right guy calling the shots on defense.
yeah.
And another person who I wouldn't mind is the Chargers defensive coordinator. Because
Yeah.
he's got ties with
Nice.
Not John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh. He's like he's in close to the Harbaugh family. I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind that.
Yeah. Same. I've heard that one as well. Be mentioned. I think I think Brian Flores would just be a great fit. Um, just with how the Ravens dynamic and culture is. Um, obviously you'd need a great offensive coordinator in tandem with that and everything like that for Lamar and the offensive side of the ball. I think it kind of goes back to the conversation as far as a lot of the rule changes for the defensive side of the ball have, you can say, arguably have impacted the AFC North the most, compared to every other division and every other team. So, kind of figuring out this new age, uh, Ravens and Steelers mentality as far as the defensive side of the ball comes together. Like we we want to be those defensive united front teams still. I think we need the coordinators to kind of follow through on that side of the ball because that's without the big hits and everything like that, and just as far as what the defense is able to get away with now versus what they or what they're not able to get away with now, excuse me, versus what they were in the past, makes it really challenging for defenses, especially when you have these dual threat quarterbacks that make it even harder to defend against. So coupling that with great schematics is would be great for both the Steelers and the Ravens in that verse. So I think that Brian Flores makes a good fit there. But it would be exciting to have, like a Mike McDaniel's head in those offensive rooms. So I can see why he would also be an enticing pick for the Ravens.
Yeah. But the Ravens are doing their due diligence with head coaches, and I think, what they're doing is, a good move in regards to, they're doing their research, which I'm happy for that, and I'll be excited to see who they hire. But I wanted to move on a little bit and talk about what I thought my top five games of the year are.
Mm,
Outside of the honorable mentions, the top five doesn't exactly have an order. I just truly thought that, the top five, at least they're deserving of a spot. But the honorable mentions, drum roll. I had the Packers versus Cowboys in week four, the only tie of the NFL, this entire year. It was 40-40 tie. That game went down to the wire and ended in a tie. It sucks, to have that, end in a tie because I kind of thought that game should have had a proper winner loser.
yeah,
But that was a great game.
it was a great.
You know, there wasn't really defense outside of overtime in that game, but
Mm,
hey, it is what it is. Um, and then my other honorable mention, which honestly you can probably put both of the times they matched up, Green Bay versus Chicago. I
mm,
specifically had the game not Green Bay, the Bears won because they had like what, a 9% chance to complete that comeback.
yeah,
They got the
the miss.
touchdown, they got the onside kick.
Yeah, I was gonna say the missed onside recovery. Yeah,
Yeah. And then in overtime, throwing it up deep to DJ Moore, which he came down with it. That was a
that walk
perfect
off.
throw.
Yeah, that walk off was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So like that those two games alone could honestly be top five, but I have the Bears for other, matchups in the top five. So
Hmm.
I'm not just gonna make this top five Bears games of the year list, even though that I kind of technically did.
They
Um,
played in a lot of close games this year. A lot of hype, close games this year.
they did. So for my number five spot could honestly be the number one spot, depending on who you ask. I put the Ravens versus Steelers in week 18. I thought, basically Ravens got out to a good start. Steelers, kind of got back in the game. And, Ravens, they were responding to, the punches the Steelers thrown in the fourth quarter, and Lamar Jackson led them down the field to, basically take the division, a miracle, and just came up short. So I thought that was a great game all around. Um, and hey, I'm excited to see, the next stage of the Ravens versus Steelers rivalry. For number four, I have the Bears versus 49ers.
Mm,
The Bears started a game with a pick six. I'm thinking, man, this might be a long night for the 49ers.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, the Bears could not stop a nosebleed. Not because of the 49ers,
Hmm.
but they went down to the last play. And personally, I had the thought, now I am of the opinion when you like early, and I mean very, very early in that play, which I would have taken my chances with DeAndre Swift. Now people are probably saying like, like, oh, there's like a safety over top. Well, number one, or like I'm gonna trust DeAndre Swift to make someone miss.
Yeah.
That's me. But two, I understand why Caleb Williams held onto the football. I'm not, throwing shade at him for holding onto the football in that situation.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that was a great game. And hey, if we get these two teams in the playoffs, I think it'll be a great round two.
Same.
Number three, I've got the Rams versus Seattle in week 16. That was the game where there was the like little backward pass, and
Yeah. For
me,
the
you, and
score.
Kevin, yeah, me, you, and Kevin earlier in that game were like, man, Sam Darnold's fumbling the bag again,
Yeah.
and Rashid Shaheed, I'm pretty sure that's the game he got that punt return.
Return.
Um, and they
Mhm.
just made the clutch plays at the end to win that game, which I'm like, hey,
That's a
great game all around.
good game. Yeah, great game.
Are any of these games that I mentioned so far, does any of them surprise you?
No, none of them surprise me. I agree with them. I think it is hard to leave the Packers Bears games out of it. However, I do understand. I might. Uh, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I'm interested to hear what your other top two are.
Number two, I have the Ravens versus Bills in week one. I'm sure it's probably surprising for people to me to put the Ravens losing twice on this list.
Refresh me of that game. Refresh me.
The Ravens came out dominant. They're winning 34-19 with basically the whole fourth quarter left. They ended up losing that
That's
game 41-40.
That is right. That
Um,
game was insane. Yeah.
Jair Alexander got cooked. Bills
Yep.
wide receivers could not be stopped.
Yeah.
Um, Derrick Henry fumbled the ball in that game, which gave the Bills life.
Yep.
And the Bills got a walk-off kick, which that was an amazing comeback by the Bills. I'm not going to take that away from them. Sucks came against my favorite team. But
Another one.
hey,
Another
exactly.
painful loss.
Exactly. I should have known starting here with a painful loss like that. I'm like, yeah, I was in for a long
Very
game.
short. Yeah. Yeah.
Number one. Do you have any guesses as to what this will be?
Ah, man, it could be I mean, I know that the New England Bills game was crazy at the end with the comeback of their second matchup. I'm trying to think of some other crazy games that went on, man. What is it? I can't even wait to know. What is it?
I got the Bears and Bengals when they played in Week 9. Uh,
Bears, that was also a crazy
that was a
game.
crazy shootout,
Yeah,
which, I really did not expect the Bears to drive down the field and score a touchdown.
yeah,
But that was also horrible defense by the Bengals defenders not tackling Colston Loveland.
yeah, of course.
But I'm like, at the time, I did not think the Bears were the type of team to win a shootout, especially that high of a shootout.
hmm
But hey, they did, and Joe Flacco was, looking like 2012 Joe Flacco in that day.
Yeah,
I,
because that was right after they came off the win against the Steelers. Or
uh,
was the Steelers the next week? Where the
I'm not sure. I'm not sure actually at the top of my head, but it's probably in that same time frame.
I think that was when yeah. I think that was when the Browns traded Joe Flacco to the Bengals the week prior. They beat the Steelers. Bengals beat the Steelers. Mike Tomlin was pissed about it after the press before and after. And then they went on to play the Bears, and that was also a shootout, but the Bears came out at the end of that game. That's Yeah, Bears, man, you have to applaud them for that this year. I hope that only gives them more confidence, not even for this year going into the playoffs, but just going forward in general, for
I agree.
Caleb and for the whole team, to build that we've been here before,
Hmm.
type confidence. But yeah, great list. I think that was a great list.
Thank you.
Well deserving of a placement for those.
Thank you. Yeah, like you mentioned, it was hard because there's a lot of games I could have put on this list. Like one I did not put was the Eagles and Rams, and the Eagles got that blocked field goal to win.
Yeah,
I
two
just thought there
for
was
you.
better games than that.
Two. Yeah.
Um,
I remember it because week one, I remember at the end of that game, I was like, that might have been the best game. That might be a game of the year candidate. And then the Ravens played the Bills, and then I was like, that game was even
you
crazier.
you got it. You have it a little backwards.
Do
The
I?
the Eagles and Rams played in like week 3. They were both 3-0 at the time.
Okay. Well, week
Yeah.
three,
So
then, yeah.
yeah, so if anything, the Ravens and Bills started the year off with the crazy games,
There
and
was
the Eagles
a
and Rams
few. There
continued.
were a few weeks where there were a few games that were like, okay, these games could be game of the year potential. I
I
like they
think
were
every
like
week had a game of the year
crazy. Yeah.
nomination, like for
Yeah.
sure. But moving on, we're gonna get into wild card weekend. It's day of recording on Friday. Wild card weekend starts tomorrow. Starting off between the Rams and Panthers. This is a Week 13 rematch where the Panthers did come out on top, 31-28. And the few notes that I wanted to make sure it's considered is that number one, Bryce Young did outplay Matt Stafford in this game.
He did.
Matthew Stafford threw a couple of picks. He also threw one late, and the Panthers, just controlled the clock for the rest of the game. Neither team in that game could stop the run.
Mm.
As a team, both
Yeah.
teams I think had about 120, 130 yards rushing. But overall, what do you think about this matchup? Do you think it's going to be similar to their Week 13 game?
Um. I think it'll be similar in certain ways. I think it'll be. I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout. I think it'll be close. I think the Rams should come out of this game winning. I think so. Going back to your comment about Bryce outplaying Matt Stafford in the regular season matchup, I I want to mention that Matthew Stafford in that game was on a hot streak. He had like not thrown a pick in so many games. He was leading the league or all quarterbacks in like least amount or most amount of passes attempts without throwing a pick. And then he threw two that game.
Hmm.
Um, so with that being said, I think if Stafford can take care of the ball, if the Rams can take care of the ball, I do see them coming out of this game with the win. Albeit I think if they do go out and turn the ball over, that being the Rams, I think they could still win the game. But it'll definitely make it closer, and it'll give Panthers definitely a shot, an opportunity to win the game. So I think the Rams do have to be careful, but I think that they are the more talented football team. They are the more well-coached football team. So I do think that they should come out of this pretty surely handed, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah, I kind of have the same vibe. I think the Rams are going to win this one 27-20. But I also want to say I'm happy for Bryce Young being able to make the playoffs. I just want that to be said.
Hmm.
All the, hate that this man's gotten, what he's gone through in his young career. He's pretty deserving of this, and I hope he plays well
Me too.
against the Rams,
I
tomorrow.
think he will. I think
Yeah,
he
I,
will.
I think he will also. But I think the key to this game will be whoever establishes that ground game first,
Hmm.
because I think even just one turnover would be enough to win or lose this game for one of these teams.
I agree.
Um, Moving on to the Packers versus Bears, round three. It's always hard to play the same team three times in a season. And we already established that these teams had, two incredible regular season games splitting the series. The Bears did almost come back both times. They did. First time Caleb Williams threw an interception. In the I forgot who got the interception. I want to say it was Xavier McKinney. No,
Yeah.
it might have been Keyshawn
Yep.
Nixon, but
Yeah.
um but that second game, I think that was the more crazy game because, the math, the odds, the analytics were totally against the Bears. But the other thing I wanted to mention to you is like Odunze. He's, set to return for this game. But what do you think about this game?
This game is really, this is a this is just a hard match. I think this is going to be a hard matchup to pick for years to come, for this week and for years to come, just based on how these teams match up, the rivalry. It's always a thick, tough, fought out game. Um, I could pick reasons on why both teams could potentially win this game, which is why it's hard to say. I think the Bears, if they can continue to establish a run game against the Packers, which they have been successful at that the last two games they've played. Not so much in the first half, but in the second half of those games. I think that the Bears have a really good shot at winning. With Rome Odunze coming back, Rome not having played against the Packers in either of the matchups this year, I think that they have a good shot of winning with Rome if they're able to get that connection and he's healthy. On the other hand, the Packers were in position to win both of these games. They were controlling the game, both games. They were controlling both games. You can say debatably for the first half of the first game, and then pretty much to the fourth quarter of the second game. So if the Packers can just figure out a way to finish the game, if they can just figure out a way to finish the game, I could see them legitimately winning this game, not necessarily with ease, but if the Bears can't find a way to turn it on and the Packers just stay kind of on top, I could see the Packers winning this game. Um, Now, will that happen is the other thing. Uh, my heart wants me to pick the Bears, but I think the Packers are going to win. Um, I hope they don't win, though. I will say that.
I got the Bears winning this one. I think that the defense is going to tighten up because, the last few weeks, the Bears defense has not been playing as well. I
Kyle
think,
Gordon is coming back.
yeah, that's going to be a big help. And I think that this game is going to be similar to the 49ers, not in essence of a shootout, but going down to quite literally the final play. Um, but I think if this game is close, I think it's in the Bears' favor. But if the Packers, get on the Bears early, jump on the Bears early, different story. I
Mhm.
do see an incident where I do see an instance with both teams winning this game, but I'm going to pick the Bears being the home team. I think the crowd's going to be on the Bears side, and I think the crowd might help, energize the Bears to a 27-24 win.
Okay.
Yeah. Moving on to the Bills versus the Jaguars. So I'm going to be the one to start painting this narrative.
Ooh.
This is the first postseason that Josh Allen is arguably the clear-cut best quarterback in the postseason. Whether you want to say the entire postseason or just the AFC, but if you wanted to say just the AFC, he is the clear-cut best quarterback in the AFC playoff picture. I think that, because he has no Lamar to go against, no Mahomes, he's lost to Joe Burrow in the playoffs before, so I'll even throw in Joe Burrow. He's now going up against those powerhouse quarterbacks. I feel like if the Bills lose, Josh Allen criticism like needs to happen more. Like people need to criticize Josh Allen a little bit more because you have a lot of people in the AFC that don't have that playoff experience. The only one in the AFC who has a drastic amount, actually not even drastic, let's just say the most playoff experience is Aaron Rodgers. He hasn't been there in basically 5 years. Um, so, but here's the interesting thing. Did you know that Josh Allen has not won a road playoff game?
He's 0-4.
He is 0-4 on the road in playoff games. Now, here's the other interesting thing. In the wild card round, the Jaguars are 3-0. They have not lost in the wild card round of the playoffs. Something's got to give. There's no ties in the playoffs. So the Jaguars have had an amazing, season. I don't think very many people expected them to be this good.
Yeah.
And, their defense also is pretty good. Also, keep that in mind. I think the Bills have more pressure on them to win because kind of the point I mentioned before. Because like I'm not the first one to mention the point, with no Lamar, no Mahomes,
Oh
no
yeah, no,
Burrow.
no, no,
I'm
yeah.
not the first by any means, but I think the Bills have more pressure on them than the Jaguars do. But I'm gonna take the Jags to still win this game. I think that their defense is going to cause fits. I think Josh Allen's not going to be able to Superman this game. Give me the Jags 24-20.
Yeah, I'm picking the Jags as well. I think the Jags are going to go out there and get after it. I think they're going to get after Josh Allen. I think they're going to get a lot. They're probably going to get a lot of sacks on him, a lot of pressure on him, hit him a lot. And I just don't see this Bills team being able to overcome a lot of the talent that's on this Jags defense, the young talent, young fast talent on this Jags defense, and their offense has been playing phenomenal down the stretch. Uh, I understand the Josh Allen hate and the deserving criticism for Josh Allen as well. On the other hand, when we really look at it, Josh Allen has always performed in the playoffs.
He has.
He has not really had many blunders in the playoffs.
I
He's
can't I can't think of a bad Josh Allen playoff performance. I can't think of a
I
single one.
and I think that that's why he doesn't get the hate because it's sort of like a situation with Lamar is I think Josh Allen has a little bit better than Lamar, but I think their team has let them down. The team has let Josh Allen against what was it 2021 against the Chiefs going
Yeah.
back and forth.
Hmm.
Team lets them down again against it's like every single time they're in the playoffs and Josh Allen is willing them back with these crazy plays, having them fighting for a chance to win, and the defense just can't get a stop. Um, I think that's really what it comes down to, and I think that this year is just so unfavorable for Josh Allen because this is arguably the worst team he's been a part of, like talent wise, everything. I don't see them being able to get it done. I don't. That's not hating on him or anything because I think that Josh Allen's an extreme talent, deserving, and even capable of. I just don't see the team like he doesn't have any weapons. The defense, name one star player on the defense, really. They don't.
I mean, I'm gonna challenge you there. Hold on, hold on. I mean, but the thing about their star players is they're just not young. Matt Milano's a great linebacker. Ed Oliver is a great, defensive front. Joey Bosa's been playing great this year. Joey Bosa, his last few years on the Chargers, has basically been injured and is not really done. Joey Bosa has won them some games this year.
Yeah,
So
but they're
like,
not scary. They're not scary.
but the thing is, they at least have the playoff experience. The Jaguars don't. Like they've got the playoff experience from the one year they went a couple years ago when the Chargers had that crazy, horrible blown lead. But
That's true.
otherwise, the Bills got that playoff experience, and for some teams that means something. I just think that Josh Allen's wide receivers are going to let him down. That's what I think. I
Yeah.
think Josh Allen will play a clean game of football, but when he needs to catch the most, whoever he throws it to, their hands, they're going to vanish like the Avatar.
No.
Um, Moving on to the next game, we've got the 49ers versus the Eagles, where I think this can be like one of the sleepy underrated games of the weekend. I get it. 49ers defense is super banged up. Offense, one player might play one week, they might not play the following week. So that's to be determined. But The reason why I think it's gonna be sleep underrated, the Eagles offense has not been consistent this year. Their defenses look great all year. And the 40, except for last week, the 49ers offense has been balling. I get it. Seattle, shut them down. And I think the Eagles can do something similar. But I think the 49ers are going to want to bounce back just because, like the playoff history, at least in recent years, between these two teams. But what do you think?
Yeah, the 49ers have the last 2 weeks of the season, they've slid for me in terms of their capabilities in the playoffs. Uh, the game against the Bears, I know the Bears have a high-powered offense, so I'm not saying that they don't. It's not a knock on the Bears at all, but and I know that the defense did end up getting a stop at the end of that game, but for the other 59 minutes of that game, they couldn't stop a nosebleed. So um, I think that this is going to be one of those games where the Eagles on offense are going to be able to do whatever they want, quote unquote. And in that term, I think that they'll be able to win this game. Um, and then the offense, it really scared me last week when the Seahawks pretty much just bullied them. I think the Eagles have very similar defense to the Seahawks, and I think that they'll be able to do some of those same things that the Seahawks defense was able to bring to the table. Um, if the 49ers, which haven't been successful at running the ball this year that much, like
I'm gonna disagree with you there.
no. They've been able to run the ball. They've ran the ball a lot, but Christian McCaffrey is averaging like 3.8 yards per carry. It's not something crazy. They're not running the ball over teams. They're running the
Okay,
ball efficiently, but they're not running the ball over
okay,
teams.
okay. You
And with
you
that
sold me
being
there.
said,
You sold me there.
I think the Eagles, their front seven, I think they'll be able to stop the run, force the 49ers to pass. And like you said, the 49ers receivers are not crazy. I do think Kyle Shanahan will have some plays dialed up that will help them. I just don't see it being enough to beat this Eagles team.
Fair. But this is going to be my one optimist pick of the week. I am going to pick the 49ers to win this game just because I don't trust the Eagles offense. Now, I do agree. I do think the Eagles should win this football game on the back of, their defense, their front seven. They should win. And Jalen Hurts in the postseason, in, his career, for the most part, he's played fairly well. So, like, that me saying that's probably like making people think is like, then why aren't you picking the Eagles?
Who do
Other
you
than being a little optimistic, I was like, you know what? This Eagles offense does not look the same as it has in past years, even before Saquon, because
Can I
I
ask
feel
you
like
this?
the Eagles offense had looked better in the past, even before Saquon, than they do right now today.
Yeah. I mean, let me ask you this real quick, and then we can move on to the next game. But do you think who has more pressure on them this game? The Eagles or the 49ers?
Jalen Hurts, not even the teams, Jalen Hurts, only because of everything that has been said about the Eagles offense this year. And technically, I take it one step further and say the offensive play caller, Kevin Patullo.
Yeah, but
And the thing is, Jalen Hurts has basically had a different offensive coordinator every year of his career, stretching back to even college.
Yep.
So I don't think it is a challenge to learn basically a new system every year.
Yep.
But I would say the pressure is on him because if he has a great game, fine, no problem. But let's just say if he was to look bad and they were to lose, I wonder how many star players, specifically like AJ Brown, I wonder if he's like, you know what? I don't want to be in Philly anymore. Um, so my concern is from a not a physical play aspect, the ramifications of losing. Because for the 49ers, basically Fred Warner's not playing. Nick Bosa's not playing. They have another defensive tackle not playing. Offensively, we don't know if Ricky Pearsall's going to play. We don't know how healthy Juwan Jennings is. George Kittle, great tight end, but he is fairly beat up. So I think the pressure is more on the Eagles, considering
Yep.
that the 49ers, they're not quite at 100%, but they're still a good team and they should be
Yeah.
taken seriously.
I agree. I agree.
All right, so we are back, and I think this next game has potential to be an upset. We've got the Chargers versus the Patriots. What do you think about this game?
I will, bro. Uh, I think it has the potential to be an upset. I think that the it's a good matchup. I think they match up well. I should say that. I think both teams. kind of like this matchup, to be honest with you, for different reasons. I'm still going to take the Patriots in this one just for the home field advantage purposes. Um, I also think that the Patriots have been hot as of recently. I mean, I know that they've gotten some different stuff going on, but I do think that the home field advantage is going to be important in this game. And I think that it's going to be interesting with the Patriots because the Patriots haven't really played any really legit teams this year, and their defense is ranked, I think, fourth right now in the league, and they haven't really played anybody. So it's going to be interesting to see how the defense matches up with the Chargers offense. And I'm kind of leaning towards the Patriots getting this one, but I do think that there's room for an upset here.
Um, I have a different perspective.
Mhm.
I think that this is the best matchup for the Patriots because the Chargers offensive line is beat up. Um, yes, the Patriots don't have, the best of pass rush, but I think if they were to have pass rush success against anybody, it's going to be against the Chargers. So I think this is the best matchup for the Patriots, but it's like not the best matchup for the Chargers, not from the O-line perspective. But I think the Chargers are going to try to run the football because that's what Jim Harbaugh teams do. They try to establish the run game, and they're fairly good at it. Um, I'm kind of wanting to change my answer. I mean, a little bit. A part of me wants to say I think the Chargers are going to get the upset. Um, because I think if they could run the ball effectively, I think they can beat the Patriots. But I think that Patriots offense can also still put up some points.
Yeah, I think it's a hard one to call because I can't say I have too much confidence in the New England Patriots this season just because of their difficulty of schedule. Like they haven't the only team that they've beaten that's really has a winning record are the Bills. Like that's practically the only team they've beat with their winning record this season. Every other team they've beat has had a losing record. So with that being said, and the 49 and sorry, not the 49ers, and with the Chargers being a formidable team, I think that the Chargers can come out with this win. But I think that the only thing that I would put in favor of New England with this game is going to be the crowd, the home field advantage, because if the Chargers get behind the sticks even remotely and are forced to pass the ball, I don't see the Chargers receivers stepping up. I think Justin Herbert will do just fine, but I don't see the Chargers receivers and skill set players around Herbert stepping up to be able to compensate for that.
You can get it. I'm going to pick the Patriots to win this game. My gut instinct wanted me to say the Chargers, but I think the Patriots, their formula, on offense, I think that, is going to be to their strengths. And I think the Patriots also do have less pressure despite being the better team because
Mhm.
Justin Herbert, has not had any playoff success, and this is
Yeah,
their first playoff game.
yeah.
So I think the Patriots are going to be able to capitalize off that, Justin Herbert, being under, this extra pressure. But I think it's going to be close. Give me the Patriots to win this one 20-17. So now I'll let you lead the way for the Texans and Steelers. What's going through your mind with that one?
Um, I think that there's a fork in the road with this game in the sense of the Steelers are able to make a game ugly. I think I have faith in the defense to hold this Texans offense to 20 points or less. I do think that they can do that. The question is going to be whether or not the Steelers offense is going to be able to produce anything. We get DK Metcalf back, so that's a relief. Uh, Down the stretch, Aaron Rodgers has had a better connection with Pat Freiermuth, which I've loved to see. Hit him down the seam late in the game to set up the win for the Steelers against the Ravens in this past game in Week 18. He had a few big catches that game actually, so I like to see that. The Steelers' run game has actually been pretty decent, although I don't think that's going to matter much against the Texans. I think the Texans
I don't think it will either. That defense
will
is beast
easily
mode.
stop this Steelers run game. I think We'll have to be forced to do that dink and dunk stuff that Aaron Rodgers and both Warner and Gainwell have had going throughout the season. But this Texans team does not allow yak. You know, the Steelers are second in yak yards this season. We're
Hmm,
second in yak yards this season, and this Texans defense does not allow yak.
hmm.
That's how we thrive. We don't force the ball down the field. We don't have a big. We have DK Metcalf, and we do like a lot of back shoulder fades to him. But as far as stretching defenses out, we haven't had a lot of success this season. So I think that this game will have one or two outcomes. I think if the Steelers cannot uh, stay ahead of this of the chains. Uh, we're going to see a blowout. We're going to see an ugly game. We're going to see a dominant Texans defense shut this Steelers offense out, and it's going to be me shaking my head, not wanting to look at the screen the whole time. Or it's going to be a very slow-paced 10 to 13 field goal, field position type game, and the Steelers might be able to edge out a win. Uh, I think the one thing that has um the Steelers have the benefit in this playoffs bracket in general is just the experience. I think between Mike Tomlin, between a lot of our players, we have old players, we have a players with a lot of experience who've played in close, tough games. We are Mike Tomlin's known for playing the chess match game, the field position game, being able to leverage that in playoff games. I think we do have that going for us because in the AFC, there's a lot of young teams this season. There's a lot of young teams in the playoffs, and you never know how they're going to show up or show out. Uh, with that being said, I'm going to take the Texans, uh, but I think it'll be close.
I am going to take the Texans. I think the Texans offense has been improving a bit more, and especially in the second half of the season. But I think if the Steelers want to win, they're going to have to make, like the Steelers defense is going to have to make, life for their offense easy. By that I mean give them a short field or two,
Yeah,
and also make the Texans drive the length of the field the entire game.
yeah,
Um, because I think if this game is, lower scoring, I do think that will benefit Pittsburgh. I think the Texans offense is going to have to put up points, and I think they want to, get out to a good start because I said it, during the Ravens and Steelers game when the Ravens, had the lead with some time left, and even I had all timeouts left. I'm like, you know what? I don't like the situation. Long story short, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, you know what Aaron Rodgers does to you when he basically you give him a minute or more and like at least one timeout. So I honestly think that let's just say if the Steelers need a field goal, they got a minute, they got to drive the length of the field, even against a great defense. I think Aaron Rodgers has one more vintage performance going up against a crazy defense. But I'm gonna take the Texans to win because I think CJ Stroud will, play well. He's been playing well this season. I think he's going to take care of business. And I think the Texans ground game will make it so that CJ Stroud doesn't have to drop back and throw the ball as many times as Aaron Rodgers probably will have to. I'll take the Texans to win 24 to 14.
mm.
Um, those are the wild card round playoff games. Is there anything else you want to add, for this episode?
No, I think that's it. I think we have a good hand of games ahead of us this weekend. I'm excited for it.
I agree. I agree. I just want to thank you for hopping on the podcast with me. I really, really appreciate it. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the I Am Passionate podcast. And we will catch you next week.
Catch you next week.